Welcome in everybody to Fandom NFL. I'm your QB1, Joe Pisapia, and we've got a real treat for you today. Now, I know a lot of you is casual fantasy people out there, and then there's the hardcore audience. But to me, all of you need to pay attention because this is one of the most important shows we're going to do because it's about data and it's about numbers. And sometimes numbers can be a little boring. It's true. Even for those of you who absolutely love the fantasy stuff and just go crazy for all the data and all the numbers, you need somebody who can really kind of communicate it well. And I found somebody who was working for the NFL for years, and I follow him on Instagram, and he was nice enough to come on the show here. He's a not one but two-time Emmy Award winner too. I don't have any of those. No Oscars, no Emmys, no Grammys. Chace Daskalos is here, and Chace the Data is the IG account and the website where Chace breaks down all the data, and it's some of the best work that I've seen in the data science space when regarding NFL ever. And that is not hyperbole. It's just truth. And Chace, I'm so grateful that you made the time for us today on Fandom NFL to come and chat with us, to talk about some of the data that you've been diving into, what it means for fantasy, what it means maybe for our wagering, what it means for our favorite teams going into the season. So Chace, welcome to the show. And I know you're a big independent guy now. You're out there in the independent streets like me. And us independent collaborators, I feel like we got to stick together, brother.
Yes, sir. Joey P, let's go, man. Thanks for having me on. It's an absolute honor. It's crazy. I can't even believe I think I told you before the show. I've listened to your voice so many times on Fantasy Pros podcast and stuff. So, as much as I am excited to be here, it is an absolute honor to join you on the show. I definitely come from a data background, so I'm excited to kind of share that perspective. And oh my gosh, like I just can't believe it. Football season's 3 weeks away
I know, it's
and
crazy.
I'm ready to roll.
It's a mutual admiration society here on the show because what I love that you do, and this is true, and if you haven't already, go follow him, Chase the Data over on IG, because what you're doing is you're presenting the numbers in a way that, especially for me, who's more of a visual learner sometimes, it's not just Excel spreadsheets and just numbers thrown at you. It's the visuals that accompany it that really break down the player, the circumstance, what's going on, and really help you understand the context. And to me, context is everything. We're talking about data, right? Because we can make numbers. I'm an analyst. You're an analyst. We can make numbers kind of tell whatever story we want. But what I love about your work is you really let the data lead you into the storytelling. And I think what you do such a great job of is telling the story of the numbers. Walk me through that real quick because, for those people who always wonder where this passion for the numbers comes from, where does it come
Mhm.
from you?
I just love painting the picture in people's heads of what does this actually mean. It's kind of connecting the dots, being a data storyteller. So many data points out there that mean a lot and mean nothing. So I just love sifting through and kind of connecting data points to help tell a story, to help people win in their fantasy league, to help make the right start sit decisions, to make the right draft selections in your fantasy draft. So it's all about, I just love kind of taking the idea of telling a story, painting that picture in somebody's head statistically. What does this mean? What does it look like? And what's the effect from it? So I just kind of love helping people make better decisions. I want them to walk away from watching my content feeling smarter and really just feeling like, wow, that was really cool. So that's really where it comes from.
You nailed it, buddy. Because whenever I watch your videos, I feel a little bit smarter, and God knows I can get all the help that I
Well,
need. I
thank
mean,
you.
that's for sure. All right, before we dig into some of these numbers here with Chase, and we've got a lot of great ones for you about 2026 and also what's gone on in the past that's going to impact this upcoming season. Don't forget, everybody, like this video, subscribe to the channel. That's what we want you to do here at Fandom NFL. When we hit 5,000 subscribers, and we're halfway there already, somebody's going to win a Thurman Thomas autographed mini helmet. No, it's not the one that he lost in that Super Bowl against the Washington Redskins back in the day. But it is his own mini helmet. So it will be here for you. And if for some reason we can't get this, I tell you, I'm fighting with this guy on eBay. I don't know what's going on. I bought it. Everything seemed fine. Now all of a sudden it's delayed. I got no tracking. I don't know what's happening. But damn it, we're going to get you something. Hopefully it's this. If it's not, I'll replace it. But either way, 5,000 subscribers. Everybody knows I'm going to guarantee an amazing prize. Hopefully it's this one. If not, I will replace it with this or something else. Subscribe to the channel, drop your comments below, like this video, very simple, and don't forget to ring the bell till it goes ding so you never miss a piece of content here on the channel. Also, support independent creators like myself, like Chase here. Go over to rotowire.com or download the app, use that promo code JoeyP. You get 20% off the best fantasy tools on the planet that will walk you through the entire NFL season. We're talking about your drafts. We're talking about the assistant GM. We're talking about all the mock drafts you can run before you go into your drafts, then all the software that will help you make the right choices inside those drafts, and of course, all season long to manage your team. So again, promo code JoeyP, 20% off at rotowire.com. All right, Chase, we're going to start here with Davante Adams because we all know last year you would use the phrase touchdown dependent when referring to Davante Adams. However, that doesn't begin to tell the story. Last year, 14 touchdowns, 60 catches for 789. We know he's 33 years old, so we know wide receivers typically in this age, the data tells us that things are kind of going in the wrong direction typically. This year, the projections have him at 68 receptions, more yardage, which is interesting, 868, but 8 touchdowns, which, again, that's a significant dip. We all see that regression coming, but what was so staggering to me, you did a video regarding the Davante Adams touchdown dependency and just how historically dependent it was tied to his fantasy value. So walk us through that right now, because that one to me absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah, astronomically high. 38% of his fantasy points came from touchdowns last season. That was the highest out of 436 wide receivers to score 150 plus fantasy points since 2016. 38%. So that was 14 touchdowns on 60 receptions, like you mentioned. And obviously the discussion that rises to the top immediately is touchdown regression. Like a percentage that high is bound to come back down to earth at some rate. However, there's different context to add with this, because I do think that'll come down. But if a player scored 10 touchdowns from 50 yards out, they're much more likely to see some type of like violent touchdown regression than a guy who scored from a lot closer to the end zone. And that was the case with Davante Adams. He had 32 targets inside the red zone last season. That was the third most in the NFL, behind only Trey McBride and Amon-Ra St. Brown. 12 touchdowns from inside the red zone, 6 touchdowns from the goal line, which is inside the 3. No other player had more than 3. So this was just an offensive system and a strategy that worked. The Rams had the highest success rate inside the red zone last season. They led the NFL in scoring. So just the question that keeps coming back to me is like, why go away from this? The Rams have the 4th highest implied team total headed into 2026. They're certainly one of, if not the best offense in the NFL. Don't think he hits 14 touchdowns again, but I would not be shocked if he hauled in double digits, 10. Again, like I keep saying, he's going to come down to some degree, but the role that he had is such more, it's so less kind of unlikely to like violently regress down to, I would just play, like if he scored only 4 or 5 touchdowns, like I would be very shocked. I think there's a really good chance he still hits double digits this year. I have him at wide receiver 29, which is like slightly behind consensus.
Just I think it's 26. I see like on the average ADP over RotoWire.
And it's not really because I don't like him. There's just a few guys that I think we'll talk about later in the show, actually, that I just like a little more, that I'm much higher on than consensus, that kind of just like dropped him down 2 spots.
Well, you mentioned too when we were talking before the show about Matthew Stafford and how they were kind of pushing that MVP narrative and continuing to funnel those targets to Adams. Now, look, if it's not broke, why are you trying to fix it? But at the same time, when you said since 2016, 400 wide receivers, I mean, that is a massive number that you can't count on it happening exactly the same way. And I think that's why you're seeing that drop for him. I would also say if you're in standard leagues or if you're in half PPR leagues, I can understand the appeal of Davante Adams, but on the flip side, in the full PPR, Chase, when you start to look at some of the other names that are going around there, one of the guys we're going to talk about, Christian Watson, some of the other guys too, the DJ Moores, the Terry McLaurin, some of those like veteran guys that are, probably just set up to be the number ones in their offense. You are going to expect a lot more targets, and with more volume, obviously is going to come productivity. So are you of that mind too, that if you're in the full PPR, Davante Adams, even though it was great last year, you have to take notice of the repeatability is very difficult at that rate.
Totally. And like the receivers in that tier, there's a lot of younger guys kind of in their prime who are in good offenses as well. Maybe not as good as the Rams, but there's a lot of guys I have like a massive tier of wide receivers in that range. Some guys like Luther Burden, Terry McLaurin, like there's a handful of guys in there that I do have ranked higher than Davante Adams. And part of that is because Davante's touchdowns are going to come down a little bit. And you get a guy who's like, well, how old is he? 33, something like that. So like we're definitely on the wrong side of the age curve there. So just a handful of guys in there that I like a little better, that kind of push him down a little bit. But like if I'm on the clock, I need wide receiver. Guys in the tier ahead of him are off the board. Like I don't really have any hesitations like clicking on Davante Adams.
I'm well on the wrong side of 33, Chase. Just so
I'm getting there.
Yeah, it's all right. You're still looking good there. You still got all the hair going. Everything is in the right place there. Now, one of those wide receivers that we're talking about is actually Christian Watson, who's another guy
Mhm.
where, again, a very polarizing player. Now, this was a player that I was in on when he got drafted by the Packers. Disappointed early on. I was ready to love again last year, and then my heart got trampled again for a good chunk of the season. Then he did return and showed that big playmaking ability. That's what we love about Christian Watson, right? The playmaker. He's not the guy that's going to haul in, 8 to 10 catches. He's not Puka Nakua like that necessarily. But the yardage total is going to be there. The touchdown upside is going to be there. Last year, 35 catches, 611 for 6 touchdowns. Clearly, limitations in the amount of games played, but that's always been his MO. He is 27 years old this season. In 2026, the projections have him at 60 receptions, 942, and 7 touchdowns. But there's still a lot of concern about Christian Watson being that guy finally in the offense. Tucker Kraft kind of is the one that emerged last year, but the irony is he kind of emerged when Christian Watson wasn't really available. So we also don't have a great data point about what these two guys at this juncture in their career look like together on the field at the same time. So talk to me about that here. What are the Packers' expectations, and I think your expectations for Christian Watson in 2026?
Yeah, Christian Watson is an incredibly tough exercise because of sort of like the limited sample that we've seen. But my comparison for him is basically what we saw from Jamison Williams last season. I think it's a
Yeah.
player who hasn't been able to be on the field in full capacity, but you see those spurts of it. You see the upside where you're like, oh my gosh, if this guy could just put it together, we could see it. Jamison Williams, wide receiver 11, I think in half PPR leagues last year, finally put it all together. Obviously, Lions offense a little more high powered than the Packers, but the Packers still a really good offense. Jordan Love, a really good quarterback, actually ranked second in EPA per dropback last season, behind only Drake May. So like the pieces are there for Christian Watson, where very high ceiling if he puts it all together. Good quarterback, good play caller, kind of has it all going for him. Just needs to put it all together. I've done a really deep dive into a lot of his efficiency metrics, and one that I've talked about is that since entering the NFL in 2022, he has generated 2.3 or more yards per route in 3 of his 4 seasons in the league. The only receivers to go 4 for 4 in that metric are Amon-Ra St. Brown and CeeDee Lamb. The only other receivers to go 3 for 4 along with him are Puka Nakua, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Nico Collins, and Jalen Waddle.
Holy
So
crap.
of those,
That is quite a grouping.
unbelievable crop of players. Of those 8 that I mentioned, 4 are currently first-round picks in fantasy drafts. 2 go in the second. We get Jalen Waddle in like the 4th round. And then Christian Watson's just kind of like sitting there for us in the 6th round to take. I understand the kind of riskiness. A lot of people just don't like taking him because, quite frankly, he hasn't played a full season since he entered the league. But if we're taking shots on guys in the 6th round, I like, oh my gosh, Christian Watson is your wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4? Absolutely.
Well, and the comp that you have to Jameson Williams is interesting because he goes a full round or so before
Yeah.
Christian Watson.
Yeah.
So if you are somebody like me that doesn't necessarily love the up and down roller coaster that is Jameson Williams, now you make a good point, better offense theoretically, but he's also fighting for more targets from Laporta, from Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So he's kind of 3rd on the pecking order, in that grouping at best, sometimes even 4th, depending on the game plan. Whereas Christian Watson's got to be number 2 at the very least. We're going into the season. So the fact that you're getting that same potential productivity, but a round later, and you should pay attention to this in your auction drafts too, because to me, you can clearly, pay one price for Jameson Williams and pay another price in a different tier for Christian Watson because of the volatility. You're buying risk. It makes sense. I understand it. So that's another one too that we've talked a lot, and I feel like all the sharper people. I think we had Theo on the show who was a big fan of Watson. I've taken him in a lot of drafts that we've done here on the channel. If you want to see the mock drafts, go watch. Check them out here on the channel. Sean Rogers and I just did a really fun one from the 6th spot where we got 100%, which is almost impossible from the 6th spot, where you're just getting creamed from either side. It's the worst. You're just the man in the middle or the woman in the middle of these drafts. It's the worst. But somehow we made it work. But that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make it all work. We're trying to make the numbers work. We're trying to make the picks work. The thought process. That's what it's about. The good discussion. Let's have another discussion about Davante Adams because the Dolphins are a different beast this year, right? So we remove the offensive mind of Mike McDaniel from them. We bring in a first-time head coach. We bring in a really, let's be honest, real first-time starting quarterback. Malik Willis has had some starts, but he has not been a starting quarterback in the league. Davante Adams last year, another career year, spectacular season. 238 attempts, 1,350 yards, 8 touchdowns. He also had 488 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns, so 12 total there. The projections this year have him for 10 total touchdowns, slightly less on the yardage, which makes sense. You would think the offense would run a little less proficiently. Offensive line issues, we have that. Questions about the staff. Look, they've torn this thing down to the studs, right?
Yeah.
If the Dolphins were on Home and Garden Network on HGTV. This is like one of those, like, before they turn it into the pretty thing, like, it looks like crap right now. They're knocking down walls. They're putting in new sinks. The plumbing is crap. Everything is a disaster. So how do we approach Davante Adams? Because I know I've struggled with that this year because I have very little faith in what the Dolphins currently have on paper. Do you see it differently?
I do a little bit. I feel like I'm on a little bit of an island here, just listening to kind of other analysts across the industry, where like a lot of people just have him as like a do not draft. Like you cannot draft Davante Adams. Depends on the platform, but on some he's a late first round pick. On some he's kind of like an early second round pick. Kind of depends on where he's going. And like I totally understand the offensive environment concerns with the Dolphins. It's obviously very public. Their offense, they have like the 4th worst implied team total headed into the season. Malik Willis is going to scramble a lot more than Tua ever did and check down a lot less. The wide receiver room is really bad. But there's a handful of aspects that I think people are sort of overlooking a little bit. And number one, it's that the most predictive metric for running backs in fantasy production is strictly opportunities. Like, are you getting the ball enough to be relevant? How much are you touching the ball? Last season, Davante Adams ranked 6th in opportunities. Jeff Hafley, it's a little bit of coach speak. He's definitely joking, but he was kind of quoted saying that they were going to give the ball to Achane 40 to 45 times per game. Obviously not going to happen. He was joking about he's going to have to pick Achane up and carry him off the field after each game. But I think it's more so revealing into like the mindset that the Dolphins have, where like they very clearly know that Davante Adams is an incredibly special player. And if they're going to do absolutely anything, it's going to have to go through Davante Adams. So like, number one, I have like obviously zero workload concerns about him. I also think there's different archetypes of running backs who are much more susceptible to suffering from struggling offenses. Derrick Henry is kind of the prime example that comes to my mind, where he's almost a non-factor when the Ravens are trailing. They're playing catch up. We kind of saw it last season, especially when Lamar Jackson was hurt. He's like not even on the field, right? Justice Hill's getting those snaps. That is not the case for Davante Adams. He is absolutely game script proof. There's just a handful of metrics too that I love about him as a player, and just things that really honestly would kind of make me terrified to fade him, because we are kind of, again, it depends on the platform, but we are getting him at a discount, right? Like he's finished as the RB5 and RB5 in points per game in back-to-back seasons. Now, again, I keep saying this, but depending on the platform, I think I'm like underdog. He's off the board as like wide receiver 10 or 11 in best ball drafts right now. So you're kind of getting him at a discount. Some really cool stats that I have on him: 8.7 yards per carry when not contacted behind the line of scrimmage last season. That's the best in the NFL. You have to get a hand on him. You have to, otherwise.
That was the stat that popped for me when I was watching your channel. I remember you saying that specifically, if you don't get any sort of hand on him, don't blink, because he's so explosive, right? Yes. That's the thing with him. And you also bring up a great point too that I did not anticipate, but I wanted to expand on: the lack of definition in that wide receiver room, on top of the game script probably going the opposite way. He is a running back that's gonna catch, those dump offs and those screens and those other things like that, and try to get those chunk yardage moments there to kind of move the ball. So I think in defense of those people who like HN, those are good points that you can make. And if he does slip into the second round, which I'm starting to see in some of these quote unquote expert drafts that I'm in, and a lot of these, sharper draft rooms, at 13, 14, 15 overall, he becomes way more appealing to me than at 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people ask me, what's your favorite spot to draft from this season? And the easy answer is 101, 102. Quite frankly, I think Jahmyr Gibbs has the chance to like absolutely break fantasy this season, and Bijan Robinson a close second right behind him. But like my other answer to that is I actually like picking at the end of the first, because it kind of provides this opportunity for you to either take Davante Adams there, or if there's a player that you like a little more than him, take that player, and then you can take Achane to start the second round. So yeah, I just think it's such an explosive player. It's such a talented player that, quite frankly, like I would be kind of scared in fading that guy. I mentioned how good he was when defenses didn't get a hand on him. The cool thing is too, when he was contacted behind the line of scrimmage, he ranked 5th best in yards per carry. So like give it like whatever you want. Like the guy is like impossible to tackle. And it's cool too, because he's such a small stature. He ranked first in yards after
5'9",
contact per carry.
198. That's what
Yeah.
he's listed at right now.
Third in missed tackles forced rate. Like there's so many efficiency metrics with him that just show like this dude is an absolute baller. We kind of mentioned it a little bit, and I hate to kind of bake this into analysis because it's kind of interesting, but like I do think there is like an incredible opportunity for him to soak up like a lot of garbage time receptions and like meaningless scores at the end of games. So yeah, Davante Adams is a guy that a lot of people are fading. I get it. Offensive environment, not good. But the player himself is absolutely elite. And quite frankly, he's at a discount. I want him on my team.
It's funny because I had so many shares of him his rookie season because I thought he was going to pop off, and he got hurt, if you recall, right before it was the last week of the preseason. I went, crap, he's not going to be useful, and I had to cut him and all that stuff. And I regretted it, believe me, in the leagues I had him, because I was like, I was right, and sometimes you just need to be a little bit more patient and let these things develop. I would say I like that the fade is happening, and it's something we talk about on the show too. The more you get that fade, the more these guys and their value starts to come back down to earth. That's when it becomes a buying opportunity. And even for me, who was somebody not like super into Achane being his number one player, like this is my guy, as my second, I feel pretty good. Like if I start a draft with AJ Brown and Davante Achane, I feel pretty good about that if I'm at the turn. Like that's a turn that I can endorse 100%. And I didn't think I was going to leave the show having even better thoughts about Davante Achane, but you did.
Oh, I convinced you.
Let's go. I gotta say, bro. Like I'm well done.
I kind of hope it stays here though, so he doesn't start shooting up draft boards.
No, but I think the consensus will continue to drive where you're talking, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing, because I think the other issue that lingers for a lot of people is he is 5'9". He's under 200 pounds. Can he hold up to the hilarious 40 touches a game, but kinda, sorta, that we're gonna have to see out of him? Totally. That's a real concern. And he's not built like Derrick Henry. So where Derrick Henry's plus is the fact that he is just built different. Davante Adams is also built different, but in a different kind of way. And that, I think, also wears on the psyche of a lot of smart people, too. So as the second guy, as an early round 2 pick, love it. As your 10th overall, I struggle there. And it seems like we're kind of like mincing, it's only 4 or 5 picks away. It means the world of how you're building your roster and how you start out for things. All right, Chase, let's continue on with a couple battles here, right? Where we've got players on the same team, the same position, how we should invest our draft capital. Let's start with the Chicago Bears for a moment, because we all know the upside of Luther Burden. We've seen it. Now he's dealing with an injury, so we're hopeful that he'll be ready for the start of the season or close after. And then Rome Odunze, a guy that struggled with health issues all of last year. DJ Moore is gone. Colson Loveland has emerged. So really, we're looking at these two guys to kind of step up this year in 2026. As you continue to peel through the data, what is it telling us about this Bears situation and which way we should be leaning?
So one thing I love doing is looking at league trends to find edges for fantasy. And one thing that I found is that the league average zone coverage rate across the board is up 8.4% since 2019. Keeps climbing higher and higher. It hit 75% last season. So about 3/4 of the routes that your fantasy wide receiver runs is going to be against some type of zone scheme. So it certainly sounds cool. I hear people talk about all the time, talking about the splits, that the numbers that a receiver has against man coverage. And that's obviously not a bad thing, but in some really deep research that I did, I found that success against zone coverage is actually more predictive of fantasy success for the next season. So with that being said, kind of like you mentioned, like the big debate in Chicago is Luther Burden or Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze's man coverage numbers, they're really good. Last season, he had a team high 27% target rate. He was the only player on the team to be targeted on over 20% of his routes against man coverage. That's great. But it's when we flip to zone coverage, again, the on average with where the teams are going to face at about 75% of their routes. So when we flip to zone coverage, Luther Burden last season is the one that stuck out for the Chicago Bears. Team high 27% target rate, 2.9 yards per route. Rome Odunze's target rate dropped down to 20% against zone coverage. So just like the guy against zone coverage for Chicago, I think moving forward is going to be Luther Burden. And I got a cool one, is that across 2022 to 2024, Ben Johnson in Detroit as the Lions offensive coordinator, Amon-Ra St. Brown ranked second across the board in targets, receptions, and receiving yards against zone coverage. I was only behind Tyreek Hill, who at that time was going absolutely nuts in Miami. To me, that is not Rome Odunze. That is Luther Burden. I think he's going to absolutely feast in this offense. I have him at wide receiver 18. I have Rome down at wide receiver 31. And I'm just so bullet. I think a lot of people think
but that's
that
what the NFL is, Chase, right?
Right.
Like you're zone coverage was up 8% overall last year, right?
Yeah.
Almost 10%.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of what the league is. I remember the flip side of this a couple years ago. Do you remember the DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett splits where it was like
Yes.
DK Metcalf one against man? If it was, you could kill this in betting and DFS a couple years ago. You just look, it's like, what's the tendency of this defense? Oh, cool. It's a Tyler Lockett day. Oh, cool. It's a DK Metcalf day. It feels like we can kind of rinse and repeat that with the Bears.
Absolutely.
Situation.
Yeah. And it wasn't just last season too, where Rome's numbers just kind of like across the board since he entered the NFL, much better against man coverage than zone coverage. But as I keep mentioning, teams' offenses are going to see so much more zone coverage than man coverage. So I think a lot of people think it's sort of like a lazy comparison, comparing Luther Burden to Amon-Ra St. Brown and Rome Odunze to Jameson Williams because of the Ben Johnson connection. But like, if we really were to like kind of think about it and divvy it out, like to me, again, I think probably to most people too, like Luther Burden really fits more of that Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of go-to, really good at finding soft spots in zone, good yak guy, where you've got Rome Odunze kind of on the outside, beating man coverage, beating press coverage, and running more kind of like traditional like downfield routes. So.
Yeah, good stuff, man. And because, look, this is where the league is, it's pointing towards Luther Burden, everybody. So for those of you who are trying to parse that in your mind, Chase just did it for you. We got one more grouping we're going to talk about here before we get out. And don't forget, everybody, we still got the Fantasy Football Black Book 2026 available on Amazon. Go pick up a copy. I will be updating the cheat sheets because there's so many injuries. God, I want the injuries to stop. I hate preseason football. It's the worst. Just put everybody in bubble wrap, please, for the love of God. But just so I don't have to do updates, Chase, really. I mean,
oh my gosh.
That's what people ask me. Are you going to update today? I'm like, no, I'm waiting for all the games to be over. Because there's like 3 more games and there's like 12 more things are going to happen and I can't. I'm going to wait. We're going to take a breath and we're going to update on Monday or Tuesday. That's what we're going to do. I'm already going to update, this past week, I already updated twice. Like, there's only so much we can do. I'm only one man. But go check it out. And digital cheat sheets, again, they'll keep getting updated, keep getting sent to you. And don't forget, too, you can listen to the show on the go, wherever you get your podcast, too. If you just like the audio version, you can check it out now. We're also on the Believe Network now, too, which is super cool. So if you have any other pods you listen to there, now Fandom NFL got picked up by Believe. It's great. You all believe in this show, and Believe Network believed in me. So there's a lot of Believe. It's a lot of Ted Lasso. It's a lot of stuff. Spelled differently, but same vibe. Let's get to one more grouping here. The grouping that nobody can stop talking about. Let's be honest. It's the Jaguars, everybody. Is it Parker Washington? Is it Brian Thomas Jr.? If you listen to Jake Seeley, it's certainly not Jacoby Myers. Go back and watch yesterday's show. It was certainly not Jacoby Myers in Jake's opinion. But there are 3 talents there. Jacoby Myers being that stalwart veteran who always sneaks up on us every year. We're always like, oh, look at him. He finishes wide receiver 20-something again. Somehow against all odds, he does this. Then you have Parker Washington with a strong finish. Then you have Brian Thomas a couple years ago who makes a splashy rookie season, does not follow it up. We start to dig deeper and realize, oh yeah, most of the splashy season came with another quarterback not named Trevor Lawrence. So where are we at in terms of data when we're looking at how to project 2026 for the Jaguars wide receivers? I'm Team Parker Washington. I want to know where you're at.
Look, you kind of hit it on it a little bit. And to me, the burning question here for fantasy is who's actually the team's wide receiver 1? Is it 2024 special rookie season Brian Thomas? Is it back half of 2025 Parker Washington? Whoever it is, I'm very certain that player will crush their ADP. I think they have a very good chance at finishing inside the top 24 wide receivers. This team has a good quarterback. They have a good offense. They got a good play caller and Liam Cohen. Kind of check all the boxes. But the camp reports, the coach speak, and most importantly, the data, my pretty confident lean is in Parker Washington. I agree with you, Joe, in being the guy. A data point that I really can't stay away from is across 106 routes where all 3 of Parker Washington, Brian Thomas, and Jacoby Myers shared the field last season. Parker Washington had a 24.5% target rate. He put up 3.2 yards per route and 0.54 fantasy points per route. Those are astronomical numbers, and they absolutely dwarfed what Brian Thomas Jr. and Jacoby Myers did in those situations. Jacoby Myers, 19.8% target rate, 1.4 yards per route, 0.33 fantasy points per route. Brian Thomas Jr. down at 16% target rate, 1.5 yards per route, 0.32 yards per route. So he really like absolutely crushed when they were sharing the field together last season across 106 routes. So not a large sample, but we're not talking like super small sample either. We're not talking like 20 routes or 25 routes. Like that's a decent sample. And another kind of reason why, like maybe the reason to fade Brian Thomas is that he has a career target rate of just 19.4% with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, 28% with Mac Jones. So a lot of what Brian Thomas did in that rookie season was really inflated by, I think, Mac Jones kind of playing some YOLO ball. And
as he is one to do, go look at the 49er tape from not that long ago when he was filling in.
And so just Parker Washington, just for me, I come from sort of a data perspective, but I also do like to use my eyes and my ears. And camp reports are glowing. Just everything about this guy is, to me, screams like Parker Washington's going to be the guy. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is their sacrificial X receiver running routes downfield. I was pulling some numbers last night. Trevor Lawrence had the 5th highest intermediate target rate last season. That's 10 to 19 air yards. To me, like that's Parker Washington. That's where across the middle of the field, you get the ball to Parker Washington, him and his, did you see his calves? Did you see the picture of his calves? Oh my God.
Unbelievable.
I want that, like with the ball across the middle of the field.
I can show you how to get those. I got pretty good calves.
I cannot.
It's my best feature, and it sucks because as YouTube, you never see them, right? Plus, I live in New Jersey, so it's hot like 3 months out of the year. So I'm wearing shorts like 3, maybe 4 months. Maybe we squeeze it in, but it's such a waste. I got these good calves and nothing to show for it.
If you could share some calves with me, that would be
well, that's another channel. That's a members only version. That's Jonely fans. That's what we get. But we had Mike Dempsey on the show very early on. He was like one of the first guests I had because Mike and I go way back, and Mike hosts Jaguars Today. And he did that same break. He went and he's like, look, I'm on the field. I'm watching these guys. I'm telling you right now, it's Parker Washington.
Yeah.
He's like, it is clear the rapport, the chemistry those two have. It's just obvious. And that's where we should take it. Now, I'm going to give you extra credit here. How does Brenton Strange exist in this world too? Because I think that to me is they paid him, and I always like to follow the money too. And he saw a little like, as the year went on, a little bit more like Brenton Strange moments. And then so I know this wasn't on the docket. We were talking about the wide receivers, but just out of curiosity, is there a universe where Brenton Strange can eat two at this table, or is it just not enough targets to go around?
To me, that would sort of depend on how Jacoby Myers is involved. So I'm looking at my rankings right now. I have Brenton Strange at tight end 19. I think across the board, like his positional average is like tight end 18. So it gets tough. He definitely is a guy that's like totally forgotten about. I would not want him as like my tight end 1 on my team. Like if you're waiting on tight end, I definitely like I think there's better targets. I would not wait that late to like grab your first tight end. I think he's a decent, kind of like you're mentioning, like I think he's a decent flyer as like your tight end 2. Maybe you kind of just like see how the targets are divvied up since we don't really know. He does have some good efficiency metrics of what he's put on display. But he's just a guy that like he kind of keeps getting pushed down. Oh no, I'll throw one at you here. AJ Barner or Brenton Strange?
See, to me, AJ Barner is there's more, I think, an easier pathway. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
For me, because you have JSN, and then I'm really just not confident in anything else at that juncture. I'm just not. And you also have you have a rookie running back and another unproven running back in this backfield too that, he had some time there with Green Bay. Emmanuel Wilson had some moments. That was great. That's a fun story. You got Halani, who they're talking up a little bit, and then they got Jadarian Price. So I feel like all these unknowns. I know Barner. He was there last year. I know it's a different offense. It's not the same guy running it, but it's promotion from within. So I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. So Barner might be one of these sneaky guys that I could see, when there's, when we hit the waiver wire for tight end during bye weeks, I think Barner's going to be one of the guys people are searching for more often than not. And this strange contract extension to me was odd. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so what are they trying to tell me here as they follow this money? But I don't know. It just doesn't seem like there's enough room at the end for everybody. But
and then they go out and draft a bunch of tight ends too. So,
right. Yeah.
And full disclosure too, I do have AJ Barner ahead. So
there you go.
But I thought that was a good.
It
inflection
is.
point of like,
It
which
is,
way are
but
we
I think it's
going?
night and
Yeah.
day in terms of opportunity
Yeah.
right
Totally
off the
agree.
bat anyway.
Yeah.
So, we're so lucky to have Chace here talking. Again, go follow him on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. He's got a YouTube channel as well. ChaseTheData.com is the spot. And before we let you go for here too, don't forget everybody, again, go check out rotowire.com. Use that promo code JoeyP. Get 20% off over at RotoWire. I want to plug that one more time. But I would like Chace to come on the show throughout the season because I needed somebody who's good with the numbers. So if you're enjoying everything that Chace dropped out here, not only should you follow Chace everywhere, but also drop your comments below here and talk about some of these numbers because I think it's making us all smarter and having better investments in our fantasy football across the board. So we helped you with your betting a little bit with the Bears. We helped you with your fantasy today. We helped you with everything in Fandom NFL. Chace, anything else you want to plug here for everybody? Any other series or fun things you got going on? I know the IG's blowing up, man. It's been spectacular.
No, but appreciate you having me on, Joe. Really cool moment for me an absolute honor to come on here with you and talk some ball. So yeah, just like you mentioned, all my socials are at Chace the Data. Got my website, chasethedata.com. So really appreciate it. Go check me out. And thanks again, Joe. It's absolutely awesome for me to be on here.
Pleasure is all mine, baby. Chace Daskalos, everybody. He is the best when it comes to the next gen stat stuff, and hopefully we can have more of him here on the channel. That's going to do it for us. But the story of the game goes on for Chace. I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. This has been Fandom NFL.